This book will uncover the crushing forces that have created this problem. Brutally quick, yet decades in the making, family farming's shift from economic powerhouse to past due in modern America leaves a confounding question. How did we let this happen? There are many fragments of an answer, spanning economic downturns, policies from Roosevelt to Reagan and beyond, a shifting American and global economy, and more. But there has never been an answer that traced this transformative time frame from the Depression to the tumultuous 2000s and offered a truth worthy of the toll this problem has taken on our country's economy and culture. It happened not because our food system isn't capable of modern miracles, which it is, but because we have made hidden decisions to have fewer farms in this country at almost every turn. The full answer, then, lies in the untold history of the American farmer, a rare combination of revolutionary land ownership and inescapable vulnerability to broader forces, walking so delicately that fault line between prosperity and failure as both landowner and working class. So many of our farm families hold great wealth in the form of land that is increasingly becoming valuable only if they sell it, and harder to make a living on if they don't. Unknowingly, decade after decade, our country sowed the seeds of decline of these farm families until one day we'd left too many of them in the age-old but increasingly urgent dilemma of being land-rich, cash-poor. In farm country, the pummeling pace of farms vanishing has not been limited by geography or industry. It's a devastating hollowing out of rural America, reverberating across the country at various time periods and in often brutal ways, as family farms and ranches disappear, nostalgia the only monument left in their honor. Dairy farms in Wisconsin, almonds in California, cattle in Texas, soybeans in Nebraska, corn and pigs in Iowa, oranges in Florida, all have faced some form of this decline. Sometimes the land ends up in the hands of other farms, or it becomes home to other industry or development. Other times, it lies fallow. Even when the land finds some new and valuable use, some parts of past economic life are extinguished, families going bankrupt or left with no choice but to sell the land that had been their stake in the American economy for generations. The fate of these family farms reaches far past rural America, to the tables of millions of Americans who have never set foot in a barn. As more and more members of our agricultural industry slip away, our broader food system shifts ever onward toward consolidation, automation, uniformity, and the kind of mass production that increasingly has people questioning what's for dinner. Our country needs an economically diverse agriculture industry, with as many kinds of farms as possible operating in a competitive market in as many parts of the country as possible, to have a food system that is both affordable and resilient. Instead, we have fewer farms than ever carrying an increasingly perilous burden, and a food system with a stunted capacity for local options, even as consumers crave more farm-to-table choices than ever at stores, restaurants, and farmers markets in every corner of the country. Other dangers are emerging from this loss of economic diversity. Over half of Americans believe additives that are now a standard of our food industry pose a serious health risk, as people crave more local, fresh food. Meanwhile, the ecological decay that has accompanied this decline in family farms is not merely the source of an environmental debate, but also an existential issue for everyone to solve. Entire societies have risen and fallen based on the availability of water and how they've treated the soil that sustains them. Fewer farms, in place of a diverse industry of farms of many sizes competing, leave our food supply more vulnerable when disease or other systemic disasters, like contamination or invasive pests, strike. Even our control of the land on which we grow our food has fallen into peril. With consolidated farmland in fewer hands, foreign adversaries like the Chinese have the ability to sweep in and buy an increasingly larger piece of our country's food supply like a cheap hand in a global casino. As of 2022, 43.4 million acres of American farmland was owned by foreign investors, a total that remains small but is growing rapidly. Along the way, America as a whole has begun to lose something even more elemental as the control of our food supply has become suspect. Jobs have vanished, communities have declined, and powerlessness has replaced prosperity, crushing our country's economic mobility. The lack of hope has given our urban drug problem a rampant rural sibling. These farmers, so trusted by the American public in part because they represent America's vision for itself, are succumbing to depression, even killing themselves at troubling rates to end the pain of facing the families they fear they're failing. It doesn't end there. The resentment of being left behind is widening America's rural-urban divide, contributing to political parties that demonize rather than disagree, communities that don't trust each other, and people who don't understand each other well enough to solve problems together. Each of these issues is a complex problem in its own right, often also driven by other forces. But each also ties back, in its own way, to the disappearance of the American farmer. We're not only losing the family farms that feed us, but also a part of ourselves. I'm here to share this with you because I will forever be a farmer's son. And that family walking the old homestead, there in that sacred valley where the pavement ends and the dirt road through rich farmland begins, is my family.